So, today we're gonna go through a very amazing book, at least from my point of view, written by an amazing person and personality. And we're gonna go through Greenlights by Matthew McConaughey. And I have very recently, even though I've been a bit late, I guess, I've very recently listened to the interview that McConaughey had with Tim Ferriss, and it's been very interesting. I mean, he's definitely a very successful guy, and so definitely worth knowing about, knowing his history, knowing his story, knowing his thoughts around things. I really believe that it is worth it. And as great as it is, I found actually a summary on that, and it seems to be not that of a bad summary even, which, doesn't necessarily have to be the case. I mean, you can find a summary, but I know a lot of those summaries that you can find are really, I don't want to say bad. Is there gonna be something popping up? Yeah. Anyway. So Greenlights by Matthew McConaughey, and as you can see, I'm standing. Why am I standing? Because I do not have to work quite this whole week, which also ties into a concept of the book, and I'm very excited to talk about that. But I kind of feel like that sitting all day long is definitely not good for me, and standing all day long, on the other hand, is also not the best for me, but it is better than sitting. And I also know that I'm burning a bit more calories. And on the other hand, I'm also much more tired, in the evening when I'm just going to bed, which is definitely amazing, because I sleep better. And in the past few days, I really wasn't able to sleep that well. But anyway, my thoughts. Greenlights is the biography of the first 50 years of Matthew McConaughey's life. He's a great storyteller and narrates the audio version himself, which makes it even better. Listening to the book feels like sitting in his home where he tells you his life story. There are many pearls of wisdom in his stories. We can assume, isn't it the case? Because, success comes from some things. Of course, sometimes and relatively often there is luck involved. I don't want to be like, every single successful person worked so amazingly hard. No, some definitely had luck, but there is always something to it. My favorite quotes. It's actually a really amazing summary so far. Going through the first paragraph and then some quotes. Wow, it's so amazing. Anyway, my favorite quote. Knowing the truth, seeing the truth, and telling the truth are all different experiences. Yeah, I think we all know that. And we all have also seen that. To lose the power of confrontation is to lose the power of unity. It's better to jump than to fall. The intellect should simplify things, not make them more cerebral. We often don't get what we want because we quit early or we didn't take the necessary risk to get it. We are all made for every moment we encounter. If we stay in process, I think this is actually a pretty good one. We are all made for every moment we encounter. If we stay in process and within the joy of the doing, we will never choke at the finish line. Because even though we are at the finish line, we like what we are doing. And I think this is definitely worth remembering and worth keeping in mind, because, this is something that happened quite to a lot of people. People that try to build something and then also build that. But, at the end, they were miserable because, they have achieved their goal and there was nothing after that. They were at the finish line. And if your whole life is about something and you finish up with this, then, wow, guess what, how you're going to feel? You're going to feel really fucking bad because, the whole process is quote unquote lost, or you don't have something similar to that unless you start something like that. But I don't know how many people are going to do that. So it's actually really doing something that you love and that you like, and then just pushing that to the maximum quite. This feels actually more sensical than, for example, working on something that you actually don't really like, but that the finish line or the goal, the end goal is going to be something that you maybe enjoy. Have immortal finish lines. Sometimes which choice you make is not as important as making a choice and committing to it. I kind of feel like that about studying, because I want to study something. I don't know what it's going to be about, But I kind of have a feeling that no matter what I'm going to do, it's going to be worth the experience, first of all. Second of all, it is just going to give me something in the end, and what I'm doing with whatever I've learned in the end I might just be working something completely different, but it's fine as well. Anyway, some people look for an excuse to do and others look for an excuse not to. It is not about whether you win or lose, it is about accepting the challenge. When you accept the challenge, you have already won. Great leaders are not always in front, they also know who to follow. We must be aware of what we attach in life, because it is no accident or coincidence. We must be aware of what we attract in life, because it is no accident or coincidence. Of course, and this as well ties into something that is it prominent? I don't know, but it is part of Stoicism. For example, Marcus Aurelius saying, and I'm going to paraphrase that, I don't know the exact wording, but if you want to see something in your life, and if you want to have something in your life, be that. If you want to encounter nice people, if you want to have nice people, be a nice person. If you want to have smart people and meet more smart people, then be a smart person. And so on and so on and so on. Of course, for some things it's going to be more difficult or easier than for some other things. But in general, I kind of also believe in that because it makes sense. I mean, if you're nice and friendly and whatnot, then yeah, the chance of other people also being so when they encounter you and something, then yeah, the chance is much higher. If you really think through, the whole concept, the whole idea, the whole situation, the scenario, whatever you want to call it. Time and truth, two constants you can rely on. One shows up for the first time, every time, while the other never leaves. I hope to give my children an opportunity to find what they love to do, work to be great at it, pursue it, and do it. I really like that. First of all, finding something that you absolutely love, and then actually trying to be the best at it. Work to be great at it. Don't necessarily have to be the best, but at least great. I mean, I think it is a great goal. I think it is a great thing to have in mind. What's a green light? Green lights mean go. We don't like yellow and red lights, but sometimes they give us what we need. Catching green lights is about skill, intent, context, consideration, endurance, anticipation, resilience, speed, and discipline. We can catch more green lights by simply identifying where the red lights are in our life and then change course to hit fewer of them. Catching green lights is also about timing. The worlds and hours, we can catch them by sheer luck, by being in the right place at the right time. This is a book about how to catch more yeses in a world of no's. I love the wording. And yeah, I'm excited. So part 1, Outlaw Logic, a Wednesday night. Actually, let me get rid of my chewing gum. Please don't fall into. Fuck you. Anyway, part 1, Outlaw Logic, a Wednesday night, 1974. His parents taught him not to hate, never say I can't, and never to lie. Words are momentary, intent is momentous. His parents didn't hope they would follow the rules, they expected it. A denied expectation hurts more than a denied hope. A fulfilled hope makes us happier than a fulfilled expectation. Hope has a higher return on happiness. The value, it's definitely the case. Don't expect something to happen. Unless it is something that you can control, then I think it makes sense. But anyway. The value of denial depends on one's commitment to it. His mom beat or bet whatever cancer twice on nothing more than aspirin and denial. Matthew grew up thinking he had won the Mr. Texas award as a child. It wasn't until 2019 that he noticed the photo of him winning actually said runner-up. Knowing the truth, seeing the truth, and telling the truth are all different experiences. His dad made sure his children learned the fundamentals before expressing their individualism. To lose the power of confrontation is to lose the power of unity. Conservative early, liberal late. Create structure so you can have freedom, earn your Saturdays. We need discipline, guidelines, context, and responsibility early in any new endeavor. This is a time to sacrifice, learn, observe, and take heed. If and when we get knowledge of the space, the craft, people, and the plan, then we can create. Creativity needs borders. Which, by the way, I believe is kind of also the truth. If I think about designing something, it is very difficult to say, okay, I'm just gonna make something today. It really does make sense to create borders for yourself. Okay, I'm gonna use this font today. I'm only gonna use black and white pictures today. I'm only gonna use lines with this sort of thickness to them. Whatever it might be, just having some borders and not being completely, random quite, which is, I think, the result of it. If you don't have any borders, if you don't have any rules, if you don't have any guidelines, which I think in the end, only by thinking about design, not necessarily about life, but if you just have complete randomness, the design is not going to be that amazing. It's not going to be the case, but if you have some rules, if you have structure, a certain plan, certain guidelines that you just made for yourself, then there is chance, or at least a better chance, that the end product, the design in the end, is going to be good, or at least better than the whole random piece. Part 2, find your frequency, spring 1988. In high school, he was really popular and drove his truck around school with a megaphone on the front. He would take girls mudding after school. He sold his truck for a red sports car and lost his popularity. When he sold his truck in high school, he lost the effort, hustle, and fun. He was too busy learning against his sports car. He had gotten lazy and was relying on a sports car to do the work for him. The process of elimination and identity. The first step that leads to our identity is usually knowing who we are not, as opposed to knowing exactly who we are. We develop our identity by process of elimination. We should get rid of the excess in our lives that keep us from being more of ourselves. When we decrease the options that don't feed us, we eventually have more options in front of us that do. Knowing who you are is hard. Eliminating who you're not is first. Which I think also makes sense if you think about, your career path. What are you willing to not do? What is definitely something that you're not seeing yourself in? What is something that's completely not fitting who you are? I think it is even easier to know that. And by eliminating these things, you maybe can figure out who you are, what you want to do, what your purpose is, and so forth. Boundaries to freedom. We need borders, gravity, and resistance to have order. This order creates responsibility, and the responsibility creates judgment. The judgment creates choice, and the choice lies the freedom. Or in the choice lies the freedom. Later in life, he realized that the suffering and loneliness he experienced as a foreign exchange student in Australia was one of the most important sacrifices of his life. Before the trip to Australia, he was never introspective. The trip forced him to look inside himself for the first time. We cannot fully appreciate the light without the shadows. It's better to jump than to fall. The future is the monster. We should lift our heads, look it in the eyes, and watch it heat. You have to know who you are before you know what you want to say. Knowing who you are is the base that everything else comes from. You know who you are when you become independent enough to believe your own thoughts and become responsible for your actions. Believe what you want and live what you believe. Live what you believe. What you believe. Part 3, Dirt Roads and Autobahns, July 1989. When you know what you want to do, knowing when to do it is the hard part. Matthew decided to leave law school because he didn't want to miss his 20s preparing for the rest of his life. Because in the end, I think he was only able to get out of law school when he was in his 30s or something, early 30s, which was, too much of a, too long of a time for him. So in his dorm room, he found a copy of The Greatest Salesman in the World by Augustine O.G. Mandino. He picked it up and read it for 2.5 hours straight until he got to the first scroll of the book. Shortly after that, he decided to switch from law school to film school. DNA and work, genetics and willpower, life is a combination of the two. You need to both utilize your genes and have an incredible work ethic. Definitely the case. We earn belief in ourselves first, then with others. Travel and humanity have been his greatest educators. We are not here to tolerate our differences, we are here to accept them. We are not here to celebrate our sameness. As individuals, we unite in our values. Less impressed, more evolved. The sooner we become less impressed with ourselves and everything in our lives, the sooner we get more involved and get better. We must be more than happy to just be here. If you are not a starter and you think you should be, give them no choice. Play so well that it's undeniable. Taking the road less traveled is not necessarily the road with the least traffic. It may be the road that we personally have traveled less. The introvert may need to get out of the house. The extrovert may need to stay at home and read a book. Which is also part of the podcast and or the interview. And I have to say, yeah, I think it is totally the case. I think it is really great advice. It really tremendously is, because the difficult things are often worth it. The difficult roads, the difficult things that we all sometimes need to do. Often they're worth it, and I don't know. I just have a feeling. I can't actually give you examples, without thinking about it for too long. But it just kind of makes sense in my head, in my heart, in my feelings actually, that when some things are hard, when some things are difficult, and most often they're going to be worth it. And they're smart to do and sensical. But yeah, of course, there's going to be some things that are definitely not worth doing and definitely not recommended to do if you think about it. But on the other hand, there's definitely going to be some really good examples for that. But you have a brain and you're smart, and and I know that you know things and can think through things. But yeah, I'm going to end the episode there, and the rest is going to be part of the next episode featuring Greenlights by Matthew McConaughey. And I hope you've liked it. I hope that you've been able to get something out of this. And yeah, hopefully going to see you next time. So bye-bye. I wish you the best. Please stay safe and healthy. And remember that we all can say something that is indeed going to change somebody's life. And yeah, that being said, bye-bye.